Yeah, I think I'm so tired because I saw so many people this weekend. Like I did the beach on Saturday all day, and then Sunday I went out. I'm just like,
And you got into aggressive confrontations with angry white men, angry
oh my
cisgendered
God.
straight white men.
I was like, oh my God, like what came over me? I guess it was just one too many shoves in the bathroom line for Miss Allie. He was like engaging me, pushing my buttons. And I was like, bad idea.
Yeah, well,
You got the wrong one on the right day, buddy.
when they're asking for it.
I was asking for it a little bit. So I said I was gonna punch him in the face if he didn't shut up. So what? Oh my God, so shot. So yeah, but
But
some people get energized by being out and about and like, being social. Some people I envy those people who like get energized by that because it just makes me tired.
yeah, same.
You find people exhausting too?
Sometimes, yeah, especially people that have been drinking and people that just are obnoxious anyway. Like,
Yeah.
that's why I don't really go to bars much or live shows that are in bars because it's just not my style.
Yeah, one of the like later bars we went to, I took a little chair and like moved it outside and it just like sat in a corner outside. I was like, I'm good, like go dance or whatever. I'm gonna sit where I sent you that picture. I was like sitting, I was like with my little water cup. I was just like, I'm good. No, I'm putting myself in a timeout. I just threatened someone.
Take a minute and breathe
I'm good.
and breathe.
I don't want to go dance to the Black Eyed Peas right now. I'm really fine. Like I'm good.
Mhm.
I'm good on all that. So
Right.
yeah. So long weekend, but a good one.
Good.
Yeah.
Good.
Hi, everybody. Welcome to the Kink Positive podcast. I'm that bad teacher.
And I'm Master Arch.
We're a dominant sub from opposite sides of the country that come together every week to share our love of kink and BDSM.
And we'll be sharing our perspectives as a professional Dom and a professional educator. This podcast will contain adult topics and themes, so consider yourself warned.
We hope to lend our perspectives as kink professionals, but we are not therapists or medical professionals.
Follow us on Instagram at Kink Positive Podcast, at Elemental Kink, and at That Bad Teacher. My Twitter is at All for Arch, and you can find us on Patreon at patreon.com/Kink Positive Podcast for ad-free video episodes.
Do you want to introduce our topic for today?
Today's topic is mental BDSM, mindfuck, humiliation, and everything non-physical
Hands
about
off,
BDSM.
right?
Hands on with a hands-off topic. There you go.
Hands off approaches to kink.
Yeah, hands-off approaches to kink. That would be good.
Yeah. Well, we were just saying like the term mindfuck, we like it, but kind of not. We think it does sound a little bit like trying to sound tough.
Yeah. I the only people that I've heard really use that, like when you ask them what it means, they have a hard time explaining it. They're like, well, it's when mentally mess with someone's head in consensual ways. And I mean, I think messing with someone's head in consensual ways is a good way to put it. But I think that it requires a level of intimacy that you don't get from pickup play, and the negotiations probably are going to look a lot different. So when you're meeting someone and you're playing with someone, you negotiate, like, okay, so how do you feel about bondage? How do you feel about, tightness of bondage? How do you can kind of break things down to every last negotiation as far as sensation, as far as what they can expect. But I think with mental play, like, unless you have the experience with it, you're not going to just pick someone up and do that. It's not as simple.
Right. I think it's the type of play that's more fun with someone that you know well or that knows you well because it can get into your mind a little bit more.
Right. I think that rapport has a lot to do with it. I think that knowing that the intimacy that you're sharing will involve insecurity, it will involve vulnerability in a whole new way.
Right. Definitely a negotiated thing. Just like, pretty much everything we talk about here, obviously. But yeah, mind fucking is something we want to talk about beforehand before we
Mhm.
start doing it, or mind play. Like I said, I wasn't going to call it that, but like hands off BDSM or whatever.
Right.
If you want to call it like mental, I don't know, mental games. I think there's a difference between mind fucking and someone who's just like a little bit tricky or like a little bit like mischievous in their dominance, or, just being able to describe that aspect of yourself as well.
Yeah, I mean, I think that mind fucking someone, it's a little thing, it's a little switch you can add to the scene to add a little bit of flavor to it.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think that there are scenes of pure mind fuckery, so to speak, but I think that adding elements to other scenes can kind of enhance the scenes somehow. Like if
Well,
you're doing an interrogation, blindfolding them adds something to it. It takes away the senses, it takes away the ability to see the interrogator, and it puts them in a space of a little bit enhanced vulnerability.
mm-hmm.
And I think that enhanced vulnerability is kind of the goal of mental play, whereas when we play with impact or bondage, that enhances the sexual experience. And I think mind play enhances the enhancement. Like it's one
Mm-hmm.
more thing that you can add on top of to kind of enhance the experience or enrich the experience.
When we had Brian from Chaotic Kink on, we were talking about the acrylic knives that he makes.
Mhm.
And you had asked if potentially you could put it in the freezer to make it cold, to make it feel like steel. So if someone were blindfolded, that would be a type of, mind fucking, or,
Yeah. And I
um,
think that with any type of mental play, you your mileage may vary obviously, but sensory deprivation really enhances any type of experience when you're doing mental. It helps people go into trance faster. It helps people be more vulnerable, more mentally vulnerable, you know. Um it allows less distraction,
mm-hmm.
you
Yeah,
know.
definitely makes the person more focused.
Right. And I think with impact play, like it's not necessary because you're giving them a physical something that kind of reminds them constantly that you're here now, you're here with me now, we're in this together. Whereas mental stuff, the connection that you'd have with the bottom or with the sub, that it goes beyond that. It's really beyond that. It's not something you can do in a crowded dungeon. You need to be close quarters, intimate with each other, one on one, over the phone, whatever it
Right.
takes.
So
Whatever it takes.
it's a good skill to have regardless of what type of relationship, you're going to have, close or far,
Mhm.
because it's a thread that can keep the dynamic going when you're not together.
I think
So,
you could say that about creativity in general,
sure.
you know.
Yeah.
It just it's something that it, creative DOMs are the ones to watch out for, I would say, more so because they have the ability to get into your head rather
Right.
than just be practitioners of a action, so to
Well,
speak.
creative, perceptive, and adaptable, and not just doing their topping their way, but attuning it
Right,
to their, to their people, for sure.
right.
Yeah.
Eh,
Creativity definitely goes along with,
yeah.
yeah,
An
that's a skill.
imagination,
Right.
because you're using, rather than a sub's back or a sub's butt as the canvas, like you're using their head, and that is way more rich, you
You
know.
mentioned the word trance, like a trance-like
Mhm.
state. Um, Hypnosis as well. Do you want to talk a little bit about hypnosis at all, as far as
Yeah,
hands-off play?
I mean, I think that it can be hands on and hands off in some respects, because the word trance, like subspace is considered trance.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so if you're hitting someone hard enough, you can get them into a trance like place. If you're
Mm-hmm.
hitting them hard enough and rhythmically enough, you can get them into a type of like hypnotic trance. Hypnosis in its purest form is just allowing someone's mind to relax enough to be open to the power of suggestion. And you're not going to be able to suggest something or make someone do something that they don't already want to do. So there's a lot of misinformation that you can kind of wave a crystal in front of someone's eyes and tell them that they're going to cluck like a chicken. Like, they have
Right.
to have that within inside them already, you know? So during pre-negotiations, you can put in triggers like, how would you feel if I made you cluck like a chicken? I wouldn't have a problem with that. That's the brain telling you that I'm open to that idea.
Mm-hmm.
So it flows freely. It doesn't put a hard stop on things to be like, no, that is something I say no to. It opens up the mind to that idea and be like, yeah, I could do that. You
Mm-hmm.
know, I know it sounded chicken makes. That's something I can access. That's something that's kind of embedded in me. I don't have to think too hard about it, you know, and it's feasible. So, okay, that's allowed. Um, I'm gonna make you, every time you hear the word orgasm, you feel it all over your body. That's another thing, because the body recognizes what that feels like and what that internally feels like for that person. So it's putting the trigger with an action, with a feeling. So by negotiating that, putting that trigger in there, and then when you have them in trance and you say things like orgasm, the body recognizes that it's supposed to react a certain type of way, because you've
Mm-hmm.
already talked about that, you've already suggested that, you've already made that clear as your intent. And the body is not having any mental walls put up around that.
When did you first start learning about hypnosis and practicing it?
I learned years ago through Night Flirt. I had a customer that called me and he spent hours and hours and hours teaching me everything there was to know about inductions, about post hypnotic suggestions, about triggers. I mean, I just got a 101 to 201 to 301 course through him, just asking questions, through learning, through him not really going under for me, but like explaining how the mind works in a everybody term, but making it individual for the person. Like, this works for everybody, but the person that you're going to be talking to might want this. So this is how individual it is. This is how unique it is to this person, you know, because everybody has different triggers around different things.
Mm-hmm.
And whether you can go under or not and have those things brought to the surface is another story. Like, there's some people that are just like, I can't be hypnotized. It doesn't work for me. And it's like, well, it doesn't work for you because you've already told your mind and your body that it's closed. It's not going to work for me. It's a closed mind. It's a closed body. It's a closed set.
Mm.
The people that do take to hypnosis are more the people that are agreeable, suggestible, and
Or, I
able.
mean, do you think agreeable? That's interesting. Do you mean more open to that? Like
Yeah,
people who are
yeah,
open?
yeah,
Because
and the people that don't give up a fight about it, you know, because the people that can't be hypnotized will tell you immediately that they can't be hypnotized. That wall is up.
right.
There's no bringing it down. It's just done. And it
That's
just,
like with anything else. Yeah. If someone's not interested in learning about something or being open to it, it's
right. But
right.
again, the brain is telling you that this wall is up. Like you
Hmm.
feel, it's a feeling within inside you that this does not work.
Right. Like a fixed mindset versus
Right.
how could I make this work, or, accepting it in that way.
Mm-hmm.
I would assume meditation is a good practice for people that are into this. Do you find people who meditate are better able to access that part of themselves
I don't
faster,
have
or do
an
you not
answer for
really
that.
know?
I don't really
I would
know.
think I would think so. I would absolutely think so. I started meditating like just a couple years ago.
Mm-hmm.
And I actually haven't done it in a little while, but lots of people will be like, "Oh, I can't meditate. It does not work for me." And it's like, well, tell me the 10 different ways that you've already tried. Because if you're just trying
Mm-hmm.
to close your eyes and sit in one spot, like that doesn't work for everybody. But there's lots of
Right.
ways to meditate. But some people are just like,
Right.
no, it's not for me. So I think that that mindset might block a lot of people, you know, um, in lots of different areas.
Right.
But
Right.
so you had mentioned some 101 things there, and you said a few different words. You said induction. Is that what you had
Mm-hmm.
said? So what do
Mm-hmm.
those words mean?
So an induction is basically the beginning where you introduce the relaxation technique, you introduce triggers, you introduce, what just the parameters around the place that you're going to play. And then with the post hypnotic suggestions, you feel that they're in a place of trance. You feel like they're in a place of open mindedness that they can absorb whatever it is that you're trying to get them to do, or an action that can be performed. But it's all based on suggestion. It's all based on, you may feel this, you may not. It's not you're going sleep, it just,
Yeah,
it's not the cartoon version that we're used to,
or like the cruise ship version. How is
right.
that? What? How is that different? Is that not real hypnosis, or?
I think that the people that he would be picking are predetermined to be suggestible, are predetermined to be good candidates for
Mhm.
this. Because the more suggestible someone is, like when they're relaxed, they're going to be agreeable with pretty much everything.
Mhm.
Like when they feel danger, when they feel shock, when they feel all these, that's going to hinder you. So getting someone to relax enough to use the sound of your voice, like a guided meditation, breathe with me, follow with me,
Right.
go there with me, and then let's talk about this. In the next segment, you may feel a tingling in your foot. You may feel something in your head, a little fuzzy in your head, giving them things that when you're meditating, you may notice these things.
Mhm.
you know Good meditation, you will notice when your brain switches off, when you're matching your breathing, when you're in that place. And I'm going to say trance because it feels kind of the same way of trance of, I'm
Mhm.
meditating, I can't believe it, I'm actually meditating, I'm actually doing the thing.
Right. Right.
Hypnosis is the same thing. You're their guide, and the things that you're giving them, the tasks that you're giving them, the suggestions you're giving them may be there or they may not be there. But if they're not there, it's okay with the brain too. And it doesn't give them that absolute. It doesn't give them, you may be feeling this. Well, then your brain's like, but I'm not feeling this. And it takes you out of that space of like, like, am I doing this
Mhm.
wrong? So I think
It's a
that
lot of focus required.
it's a ton of focus that's
not
required.
not like not like a passive thing. I think maybe it's assumed to be a passive thing where you are hypnotizing the person and the person is just falling, whereas like the person themselves have to be in that place where they are able, like you
Mhm.
said, to give it over and to focus on
Well,
stay the course.
and I think that's why we use spirals. That's why we use, like moving back, like
Oh,
whatever
you
it
mean like
is.
a physical
Yeah, like just
spiral?
something that they can focus on that makes their eyes tired, that makes their brain shut off a little bit,
Hmm.
you know, and it puts them into a place of suggestion. It puts them into a place that, now that you're focused on the spiral, now that you're focused on this distraction that's relaxing you, be it a mandala, whatever it is in meditation, um, it enhances the experience. It helps keep focus. It helps remind the person's brain that they're in this. Does that make sense?
Yes.
So, but with post hypnotic suggestions, like I said, it's not a matter of when you wake up you're going to cluck like a chicken again. It's going to be, you're going to feel something that may or not be there. You're going to feel relaxed about accepting this, feel relaxed about doing this and performing in this certain type of way. you know I mean,
Mhm.
everybody does it differently, but I think there are some cornerstones that people touch on regardless of how they're doing it you know
And this is something that you offer to clients that's available
I have,
for
yes.
you? Okay.
I prefer to do it with people that are enthusiastic about it rather
Mhm.
than market myself as a hypnotist, because it's like, then I get the people that are like, I can't be hypnotized. It's like, you mean you called me on a hypno line to tell me this doesn't work for you? Why are we talking then? Like, and the thing about that, like, it could be jealousy that I wish this worked for me. Like, I've seen this work for people, and this is a type of play I really want to do, but I
Mhm.
can't wrap my head around the fact that it actually works, and it only works if you accept it as whatever it is, like modality.
So you said the induction, and then you said the triggers, which you were
Yeah.
mentioning, which is just like setting
And
that up.
yeah, and understanding, again, listening to someone and understanding where they're coming from, where they've been, the triggers that you're going to put in them could just be something as simple as, when you see a picture. Here's an example of a client. When you see a picture of a waterfall, you will feel an enormous sense of relaxation wash over your body, and just associating those two things together, and then talking about the waterfall, talking about how gently it's moving, how smoothly it's moving, how fluid it is. Your body feels the same way as that waterfall. You become one with
Mm.
the waterfall. Picture the waterfall, again, using your mind's eye to picture these things and really feel, and that suggestibility and that ability to provide such a rich brain environment to be able to feel what a waterfall would feel like, and like, it's different for everybody. It's different for everybody.
Well, they say that when athletes are measured neurologically, like with tests they've done and things, if they've ran a race in real life or if they imagine themselves running the race, the same neurotransmitters fire off.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, I would definitely think accessing your mind's eye, like you said, if you're someone who practices meditation, it would really, enhance all of those experiences because you can take your mind through it. I think that's why a lot of things in kink work for people
Right.
because of that,
Yeah. Well, and
embedded
as
familiarity that your
yes,
brain does
yes,
know what it is.
yes, and as the top, extracting those and kind of using them against you, for lack of a better word, to get
Mm-hmm.
you to the point of relaxation, or get you to the point of suggestion, get you to the point of whatever the goal is.
All right.
And it just it works again better with people that can actually go there, people that are in touch with inner touch.
Mind body
Yeah,
connection.
yeah, absolutely, absolutely. And that takes time, like,
Mm.
it takes a minute to, like, be able to trust someone to go under in their presence.
Mm-hmm.
Like, again, like, I think that avid hypno bottoms will recognize when someone is amateur, because they know what trance is like, they know where they've been before, and
Right.
you're just not cutting it. You know, like,
So this is different from like mind fucking or like mind games, whereas like those are more short term, like tricking you in the moment type of thing versus an intentional, we're going to put you in this mental space.
yeah, it tricks the brain into thinking something else is happening that's impending danger. Like, it puts emotions into people. It can cause panic, it can cause fear, it can cause, anxiety, it can cause all these things, but as the top, it's your job to mitigate that. And it's
Mm-hmm.
your job to like assure the sub that even though your mind thinks that you're in danger right now, you're safe. And that's a real skill, because again, anybody can flog somebody, anybody can spank somebody and bring about the endorphin rush and bring about subspace and bring about that trance space. But the hypnotists are the ones that go deeper than that and find how they can trigger that, how they can work with that, how they can mold that, maybe reframe it, restructure it so you think about it differently in the future. And then with mind fucking, you're tricking the brain into thinking it's in danger, in peril, and whatever. And as the Dom, you're kind of the hero that comes in and saves the day and like, hey, I saved you from that.
Mm-hmm.
So, aren't I the good guy? Like, I don't know. That's just been my experience with that,
Right.
you know.
Thank you for explaining, because it's a new thing to me. It's a new, not a new concept, but it's not something I've done before. And I had been approached about it like a couple months ago, and it was just wasn't something I pursued, but definitely would
Mm-hmm.
research first and negotiate with someone that I know, not something I would do pickup play wise. I was talking to Arch before we started recording about these older gentlemen in my local community who do fire play. Like that's their big things. They're like experts in this, in this arena, and they're well known. And I had met them out, and they were speaking to me about how they run their scenes. Like this two people, like one person's there for safety, that like this, like one of them is a doctor and also a former teacher. And like, they were just explaining to me everything and how it all works. And they had mentioned that like the sensation, what it feels like. And then they were like, oh yeah, we do some like mind fucking with people. Like, I don't know how they didn't explain how, but they
Well,
just said we do mind fucking during our scenes, which was something that while I think is cool and interesting, that I wouldn't do with someone that I, didn't know, or that I was doing pickup play with. So I had said, I was
right.
like, yeah, if we ever do fire scene together, do not fuck with me. I want to know exactly
Yeah.
what's happening, where it's happening, what's happening. Because I think like it's good they brought it up, because I think very quickly you could get into a place of mistrust when the top is like playing that way and you're not prepared for it.
Right. It's always good to put out your intent. I've talked about this. Like, consent and intent should go hand in hand, So if like you're playing with someone and you tell them, this is what I'm going to do to you, and this is my intent in doing this to you, and the power high, or whatever it is, that the top gets from applying pain to someone could be taken to a mind fuck level, but not negotiating that first is probably in bad form.
Especially like we were talking on our previous episode with Aaron about neurodiversity and stuff, especially if you're someone who takes people's words very literally for like what
Mm-hmm.
they mean, and they're going to try to play with language and kind of,
Mm-hmm.
I think that's another thing too. Cause like I'll, unless it's like negotiated, I'm aware of it. I take everything like very literally. I think a lot of people do. So I think that's, again, just like something to be negotiated, because it could go from like, I trust you to like, like you're not doing what you said you were going to do.
Right. And I think with fire play, it's a little bit easier to mind fuck someone
Sure.
because we have an idea that fire is going to burn us.
Mm-hmm.
That is embedded in our heads. And then reframing that to just be like, no, this is like a massage. We use a glove to like put it, like
Mm-hmm.
that first instance of saying we're going to set you on fire, like your body doesn't know until you are in that position to know what this is going to feel like, or to know what this is going to be like. And if people are bringing flames close to your body and you can feel the heat, like, that puts you in a place of panic,
Mm-hmm.
and being able to trust that person to do things to you with something as harmful as fire, that could be a mind fuck. I mean,
Sure. And it was good they had mentioned it right away that that was part of how, you know what I mean, like how they play with
mm,
fire. And this is again something that I think like in front of other people at events, like I'm sure they also do it, however else they play, but I'm assuming that that's part of the effect if like there are people watching that is part of like
right.
their mind fuck is part of like their play versus like I'm just introducing you really nicely to fire right now, like just
Mhm.
me and you, more of like a performative type
Right.
thing. So again, like they've been doing this for a long time, so they mentioned it right away that that was part of how they navigate that.
Right.
But I thought it was interesting. So the difference
Yeah.
between mind fucking and like hypnosis, uh, for sure, as far
Yeah.
as
There. Yeah.
longevity and yeah.
Yeah.
Hmm.
There's a definite difference between the two.
We talked about kind of starting those types of scenes and like what the
Mhm.
components done. We didn't talk about ending those types of scenes or aftercare for those types of scenes or anything like that.
Well, I think aftercare for any type of mental play is reassuring the bottom that everything is going to be okay, and that they did a really good job going somewhere that they've never gone before. Positive reinforcement really helps the brain recognize that that's something that could be done again. It builds on an already rich experience and gives the mind permission to go there again.
I think
You know,
anytime you do something for the first time and it's successful like that you're like, oh, like, and you can naturally kind of wonder, like, well, I wonder what else,
Mhm.
we could do, or other ways that I could, lean into that. I can't believe that worked. I can't believe that was so good, or whatever the case may be,
Right.
you
And
know,
these mental tops are banking on that.
thinking on
They're
what.
just that it goes well and that
Right.
your brain is tricked enough to think that, hey, I could do that again and I could go further next time. Something happens within the brain that goes from I'm freaked as fuck about this to I want to do this again. There's something that happens internally that even without the top there practicing or applying whatever modality, like the brain will switch. And I think that with mental play, it doesn't have the same check-ins. It doesn't have the same like it's so much different than physical play because you're already checking in with their subconscious. You're already covering the things that if you were playing physically, you have, you do these things.
We talked about that when we spoke about distance play. You had said very similar, that the reassurance that they did a good job and that they're still a good
Mhm.
person and they're still worthwhile, or, if you had done degradation or
Yeah.
anything like that, just closing the gap,
Yeah, and it
knowing
makes me
someone's
wonder kind of about degradation and stuff that like really flips that switch for some people if maybe that ability to fetishize worthlessness or fetishize a feeling that people don't often embrace switches the head to enjoyment because they do get that positive reinforcement afterwards
right.
and they do get that kind of like nobody's ever gone there before. Like it's such a
Well, the praise balances it out for sure with any type of with any of that, just the
Mhm.
recognition, because it's a lot to undergo. And I think that it's the recognition and stuff makes it sweeter, but being able to I think it's all about the person, like being able to do those things with this specific person that you know and trust, and
Mhm.
like having, like you were talking about degradation, like having those types of words and experiences and things that you think are bad and that would be bad coming from anybody else could be really good coming from this person, because, and
Mhm.
obviously it's negotiated and part of the play, but the way you described it with the switch flipping, it's a really interesting point, because we do kind of turn things on at their head in that way. We're like, oh,
Mhm.
this is a good thing, like I never thought I would
Well,
like
and
this, but
also making the head feel calm enough in stating your intent. If you're wanting to do something with somebody, I think the ability to say that I want to do this because of X, Y, or Z, the brain recognizes that as safety. The brain recognizes that as, oh, they want to do something crazy to me, but they want to do it to make me better. Like, I think there's a switch that also gets flipped when you attribute positive outcome to why you want to do something.
When I was approached about hypnosis the first time, just something that had come up, and I had asked about why is this something you want to do? Why is it something that you enjoy? That kind of thing. And the person said that it's like that it makes them feel very trusted and cared for, because it's like the bottom is leaving the top alone with themselves. Like, I'm leaving you alone with myself, like with my inner person, inner child, whatever. It's kind of as though like you leave the room and you're leaving me alone with you. You're leaving me alone with yourself. And that's like a powerful thing for them. So I was like, okay, that makes it.
That's a good way of putting it.
Yeah, I thought that was a really good way to put it. Like, you're leaving me alone with yourself.
Like, yeah. Well, okay. And I think too with hypnosis, like, it allows for more, like, there are things you can do to kind of help enhance the enhancement as well, like I was saying. So it's like the security that's needed in a physical scene might not be the same for a mental scene, because how do I put this? Like, you are trusting someone with your essence, like you said. Like, there's no physical reminder, like if you're being spanked, whipped, flogged, whatever, constantly being like, oh, this person is hurting me, oh, this person is hurting me, oh, this person is hurting me. The surrender that occurs after physical BDSM of repeated impact is different than the surrender of someone that their brain just told them that it's okay to be left with this person. Is that?
Yeah. I mean, I'm sure there's some crossover there as far as like trance-like states and, between like the physical and the mental part. But if you are having one or the other, yes, I see what you mean.
And using the word trance again, like, we can call subspace trance.
Right.
Like, just because you're not able to be hypnotized doesn't mean you're able to go to trance places.
Yes, exactly. That's kind of what I'm saying. Like, even though if you're not in a hypnosis scene, you could still get into a trance-like state. And at that time, your mind might leave the room. You know what I mean? A little bit, like, it's still, right. But it's not, but that is not the ultimate and all only goal, of that particular scene, maybe. But right. Whereas the hypnosis would be the focus in that type of mind play. Right.
And just stating your intention gives people an idea of where you're coming from. Like, it's easier for the brain to comprehend, I don't have your best intention in mind, than I do have your best intention in mind, and then fucking that trust up.
Yeah, that's a real risk for sure.
But yeah. And telling someone ahead of time, look, I do not have your best intention in mind with this. We're just going to explore. We're just going to see,
If someone's honest about that, you're saying? That they do not have their best intention in mind?
Yeah. And I don't think like saying I don't have your best intention in mind is what you would say, but like knowing that you're playing with someone who's a little bit nefarious.
If they're that type of person.
Yeah.
Well, that's you.
Yeah.
But yeah, definitely listen to your doms if they say that. Sure.
Yeah. I just think there should be more people admitting that.
Yeah, I understand what you're saying now.
Like,
sure.
Owning that and like being real with that, and not acting like you're this moral ethical person when yes, you may have morals, yes, you may have ethics, but maybe you're doing BDSM because it allows you to be a little bit more loose with that.
Right. I think that takes getting to know yourself. That takes time to learn those things about yourself, and then to have the conviction to say those things. Really important, because then you give the person the opportunity, if they want to pursue things, with you or not. It's all
about choice.
Based on that. Yeah, all about choice and being upfront. I understand now. Absolutely. So, right.
I mean,
Yeah, it's a green flag in a way too, because like usually people that are trying to like fuck you over or like really, like, you know what I mean? Like have your worst intention in mind. Like people that, you know, they don't say that. They won't say like, hey, I don't have your best interest at heart. I'm like the nefarious type of person. They'll be nice and hide that and do it kind of under the rug in a non-consensual way, you know, versus like having these conversations. I understand what you're saying.
Right.
Very good point.
Yeah. Maybe talk about what aftercare looks like in scenes like this.
Well, you had mentioned for aftercare, you mentioned the, you know, the affirmation and the checking in on people, a lot more communication. You had said checking in regularly, you know, like you would after an in-person scene, but just keeping in mind that, you know, someone just went through something heavy and texting or talking to on the phone or things like that.
Right.
What would you say it's like for you as a top, the aftercare in a situation like that?
For hypno?
Yeah.
Reassurance that what we did worked and impacted you, because that gives me the confidence to keep going
And know what worked and just like general feedback, what worked.
General feedback is always good on those types of
Yeah.
scenes, you know.
What do you think about doms that walk around really, like you said, kind of bragging and talking about the mind fucking thing? Like, oh, I mind fuck people, like you, blah, blah, blah. Like, what do you think about that?
I think that there are buzzwords that run rampant through the BDSM world that make people appear more powerful than they actually are.
Like, I'm not saying that everyone that goes around saying I'm into mind fucking is not good at it or anything, but I do think it's one of those things that people try to use to sound cool, maybe sometimes, maybe a little bit.
Well, and
I
I
mean,
did want to say too, like, the definition of hypnosis is the induction of a state of consciousness in which a person apparently loses the power of voluntary action and is highly responsive to suggestion or direction.
there you go.
So they go in knowing that there's going to be a power exchange. They go in knowing that they are losing control and being open to suggestion, being open to direction allows the sub brain to be happy. I mean, they're looking for that direction and suggestion anyway. So, I mean, it's weird how that definition could be so blanket, like it could blanket BDSM too, you know?
Yes, I agree.
Like it doesn't, when you break it down like that, like it applies to everything we do in BDSM, not just talking someone into something or hypnosis scenes. That's why I said trances everywhere. Trances.
Yeah, well said. Well, if you guys have ever done any hypno play, you need to let us know then. And let us know what we're missing out on here, what your experience was like. I'm sure it's different for everybody.
Yeah, and I mean, I think that too with hypnosis, you're giving these suggestions and you're also just painting this image or this picture in their head of what you want them to do or how you want them to perform, and it all needs to be realistic, but it can be fantastic at the same time. Again, I mean, it's the power of the mind. So suggesting things and making reference to things in the suggestible mind will be retained more than just the literal mind, you know, and to just the ability to have a creative head, and just the suggestions you're giving them again are nothing they don't want to do already. You're giving them things that may or may not. You're giving them that, you know, you may feel this, you may not feel this, because if they don't feel it, their brain is going to recognize that can't process, you know, like it won't work. So
Yeah, definitely need commitment there on both ends to try to make something out of it.
Yep. And
That's
everybody has a different technique, you know, everybody has a different way to do it. So practice with yourself. It's something you could definitely practice with yourself too.
What do you mean?
Just self-hypnosis, just, you know, guided meditation.
Guided
You can
meditation. I think meditation is a good tool of visualizing things and is a really good tool to have if you're going to be in kink on either, you know, any perspective.
Well,
Create
and
creative mind.
good meditation will cause trance states too. So
Oh yeah. And being able to access your mind's eye, I think, is another, I know I already said that, but it's another huge thing. So like meditating when you're staring at something can help, but also like closing your eyes and centering your vision, like in a specific spot, like you'll start to, your mind will make pictures because that's what it does.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a good skill to have. So I
Well,
always,
and having somebody put those pictures in your head,
and talk you
you
through
know,
it.
after you induce somebody, deepening, progressive relaxation, deep breathing, counting, those are all things that like enhance the experience.
Right. Layering.
Oh,
Yeah.
that's always good.
You could do a lot with the senses.
And then after you deepen, you can put in post hypnotic suggestions where you can say that the next time you do this, you may feel this. And that's to counter problems with behavior or to stop an addictive habit or to alter a response to pain. I mean, there's just different ways of using it to rewire the brain to get the expected outcome. And those post hypnotic suggestions are where the real meat is, where the real, like this is how it's going to be from now on. Hopefully, if you have that much impact and you have that much rapport with the person, those things can be done. It's a wonderful way to play with the right people.
Mm. Is there a particular type of like process you go through for that? How would you go about vetting someone as a bottom for hypnosis?
I think people that have had hypnotic experience are all automatic. Like the people that like it,
Mm-hmm.
and the people that know what it is and how it works and how it affects them like it even more.
And what would you recommend for someone vetting a top for hypnosis?
I think that
Experience as well.
yeah, experience, and your brain will, like, you will know within minutes of talking to someone if this is going to work or not. Like,
Okay. Good advice. So you're
like,
saying follow your instincts there.
right. The guy that taught me saw potential in me because of my voice and my ability to paint visual pictures. He saw my imagination as a tool that could be used in combination with my voice that I'm already using on Night Flirt. The combination of those two, combined with the fact that the people that are really into it are really into it. I mean, I have a guy that when he's in hypnotic trance, he can switch between a robot, an ATM machine, a footlicker. Like, he has different personas within his subconscious that can be accessed through hypnosis.
Very interesting.
And when he's in robot mode, he speaks in programming code. When he's in foot slave mode, you have to take him back to the very first time that he ever smelled a guy's feet. You're able to like listen to the things he says when he's in those places to lead him further and deepen the experience. I mean, there have been so many calls where when he was in robot state, I would be like, list all available files. Files listed are X, Y, and Z. Open file X, list all contents. File X contains images, pictures, sounds, sound bites, like it's breaking it down to what do you remember about this? Go back to that time, and just going back to that place of what do you remember about this? The rich details that come in and trance state with him are so vivid. It's
Mm-hmm.
crazy. Like I said, I've done hours of calls that are list all files, tell all available files, open file this, list all contents, open subfile pictures, and he's able to access every single interaction. He has such a photographic memory that he can
Mm.
access these things or these files, quote, that are memories that he has. And it's amazing to me talking to him, because speaking to someone in that language and having them respond to that language while they're under just amazes me. And what do you do with a photographic memory? How do you use that to your advantage? How do you use that to recall things that turn you on? And then when you're in a space of like remembering them and you're turned on, what do you do with that?
So you kind of lay all that out for them,
Yeah,
take them through
absolutely.
it and see. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, me and my good friend that died of cancer were doing a number on this guy. Like 100%. Like he knew his triggers, I knew his triggers. We would both kind of ping pong them back and forth between us because we knew his triggers. And then the saddest part of it was when my friend died, he ended up like the slave ended up calling me, and I put him into robot mode, and he's like, one file remains. And I'm like, list file name. And he's like, file rock god. And that was my friend that died. And I'm just like, open file rock god. And he gave me, from the very first interaction with him to the very last interaction with him, memory after memory after memory after memory of everything they had done together. And it was his way of processing the death. It was his way of reminiscing. It was super emotional
It's beautiful.
hearing
Sad.
all his memories
Mm,
through a hypnotic trance, because his like human couldn't comprehend that he was gone, but robot him had happy memories to remind human him
mm.
of what they shared. And I had never heard what their calls were like. I had never been the fly on the wall. I just got the client after Rock God had like bounced him over to me, be like, hey, I put him in trance, get him to do this, get him to do that, get him to do that. It's like, okay, 1, 2, 3, and I'm gonna send you back to Rock God and go, and like he'd go back to him after I would exploit those things that he got out of him. And because me and the slave hadn't talked, but me and the other top had talked, me and Rock had talked, he was so amazed that like I was bringing these memories up. Like some of those memories of when he got involved with feet, like actually made him age regress to the age that he was when he first did that in that field with those visual, spatial, sensual
Hmm.
accents. And I don't know if it was trauma. I don't know if the kid like pinned him down to the ground and made him sniff his foot, but there was something that kept those memories locked in there.
Hmm.
From what,
Fascinating.
yeah, from what I can tell, it was a very traumatic experience. Like I said,
Mm,
it was a kid that was mean, that bullied him, that put him at his feet, made him sniff his feet, made him lick his feet, whatever, as an act of power over him. And even then he recognized that this was something different. So
it's really interesting where people could go
hmm hmm
and
but
how. So,
I just have memories of calls where it's just like, open this file, open that just
it's
hours,
really interesting.
just
It's
recalling memories that he had of just this photographic memory he had of
really cool.
how much time we spent together, what we talked about, what we did, what worked for him, what didn't work for him. It's an interesting way to get feedback as well.
Oh yeah,
hmm
tell me
just
what was in
and
your file.
Oh man, just pictures, lots of foot stuff, because I did lots of foot stuff with him.
Hmm.
And I reminded him a lot of the kid that did that to him. I don't know
Hmm.
what maybe the blue eyes or just the way I wore my hair or something triggered him to think that, you
Hmm.
know. My file, all for Master Arch, none for Slave. I mean, that was, I put a trigger that every time I said Master's favorite number, he would send $25. So part of the programming, like close file, open new file, Master's favorite number, list file contents. And I would hear him just be like, doop, 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 send the 25 and be like, file contents contain, this, and this. But just saying Master's favorite number allowed him to trigger that and be like, oh, 25 needs to be sent. 25 needs to be sent. 25, it just It's definitely a certain type of head that responds to that.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Is 25 your favorite number?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
One of them.
One of them.
I have two.
Is there a reason why it's your favorite?
Because it looks cool on a digital clock. It's like 25.
Cool. Okay. What's your second favorite number?
41.
Are you making these up or are these your
No,
real
not at
favorite
all.
numbers?
Those are my
Okay.
real favorite numbers. And I don't know why 25 and 4, like, I have no idea how those got locked in as favorite numbers, but I've always liked 25 and 41.
Cool.
So
Well, I don't have anything else on this, I don't think. What about you?
I don't either.
Awesome. Cool.
I don't either.
We could do our little send off and you could tell them to go to your page and you have hypnosis stuff on your night flirt if you want to send them to go look at that.
Yeah, I mean,
Whatever.
I have a couple of videos that people seem to find entertaining and trancing.
The half smile.
Yeah,
That was a big
that was
smirk.
a big smirk. They're just expensive.
Okay.
That's all.
Interesting.
It's not for the entry level person by all
Hmm.
means. So,
Okay.
but the file that I have on there, like many people have bought and many people have seen what it can do. It's claimed some casualties for sure.
Yeah.
That has been the downfall of many a slave buying
Nice.
that video and keeping it on repeat while they do the thing that they do.
It's you talking?
It's me talking, it's music, it's visuals. There are triggers and subliminal messages
Hmm.
all through that video. It is crazy how much stuff is going on in that video. And it really takes focus to get past the fast music, to get past the mantra, to really like
Hmm.
see all the things that are going on. So it's like if you're focusing, you'll see them. If you're not, you won't, but you'll hear things. So it's very auditorily enhanced. Like there's just a lot of stuff going on that somebody who would pay attention to a spiral or would pay attention to a crystal going back and forth or whatever, like it takes that and it just amplifies it and puts it on a maniac level with really fast drum and bass going in the background. So it's very
Did you make it?
entertaining. Me and Rock both made it
Oh, that's so
it was the
nice.
last project we collaborated on together
Oh
before he
man.
passed. And it's one of the like it was the start of things that we were going to do together
Hmm.
and we just never got to because he died. So it's a testimonial to just that time in my life when we were working on global takeover. Like we really wanted to take over the world and capture subs minds rather than like
Cute. Hmm.
yeah. I've always done ever since I was taught, like I was taught hypnosis so early in night flirt that like I've put up listings before that said that was my specialty, but since then like it's something I can do, but it's not all I do.
Do you get something out of it? Do you enjoy it?
I enjoy the length of the calls. I enjoy the fact that it's not just okay, I'm done now. Click, where it's more just it's a longer call. It's a deeper relationship. It's kind of how I feel. Some of my callers I walk away being like, damn, like we really made a connection on that call. And I think that with hypnosis calls, those calls are very connecting because they last so long. And hypnosis people really like their hypnotists. They're very
Hmm.
loyal to their hypnotists. So like I said, those bot calls, hours,
Oh, those are really, yeah, really long.
just
You had to be
super long.
prepared for it.
Prepared as I can be at 3 o'clock in the morning with you calling me wanting to be a robot. So,
Very nice.
but yeah, you can find the file that I'm talking about on my Night Flirt page. Um,
Yeah, they have to go to Night Flirt and then look up men, and then they can put in Master Arch and find you.
yeah, totally, totally.
You guys could also find us at patreon.com/Kink Positive Podcast. If you want to get our video episodes, you could do that for $20 a month. And there's 9 up right now. So there are a bunch of videos of us being knuckleheads together
Yep.
on patreon.com. And you can find me at onlyfans.com/thatbadteacher. You could find him at allformasterarch.com and follow us on Instagram and all that stuff.
Yeah, Elemental Kink on Instagram and at That Bad Teacher and Kink Positive Podcast on Instagram.
And we haven't been hypnotizing you guys this whole time, we swear.
I mean,
That would
maybe
be
you haven't.
that would
Maybe
be
you haven't.
amazing.
Maybe you haven't.
We can get the whole audience to just cluck like a chicken next time they go to work or something.
Anytime you hear our podcast, you're gonna get an enormous, overwhelming sense to go to our Patreon and subscribe.
Yeah, and share it with friends.
Right.
Yeah.
You might get sleepy listening to this, but not in a hypnosis way. It's just because it doesn't interest you.
We're interesting as fuck.
Yeah, we are.
People are interested. Thanks for listening. Thanks for listening, you guys. You guys have been doing such a good job listening, keeping up with things. I mean, people are keeping up with the new episodes and sharing them and stuff. So thank you guys for that. Reach out to us anytime.
Yeah.
Next week, we should be having my friend Evan come on, who is an artist and a kinkster and all-around great person. So we're looking forward to speaking with Evan. It'll be a fun one.
Nice. Look forward to that.
Me too. All right, everybody. Don't forget to stay kinky and stay positive.
And see you next Tuesday, cons.